This is the Montana Outdoor Podcast, brought to you in part by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss Snowplows, CM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Just go to rmtte.com for more information. And by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. Now, get ready for more fascinating topics and the most interesting people you will ever find in Montana's great outdoors. We offer new podcasts most every Saturday. You can get a link to these podcasts by going to our website, montanooutdoor.com, or by going to our Facebook page, or just send an email to Downrigger at montanooutdoor.com and say send a link to my email. It's that simple. Now let's head out with your host, Downrigger Dale, and see what's going on in Montana's great outdoors.
Thanks so much, Manny. And as Manny just said, I am Downrigger Dale with the Montana Outdoor Podcast. Thanks so much for all of you tuning in and finding us. And, you know, one of the things I always want to remind you all is that be sure and share this podcast with your friends. We are growing by leaps and bounds, but we love to have all your friends join in. And, you know, it's kind of fun because that way you guys can talk about it no matter where they're at. You can find the link in so many different places. One, of course, on the montanooutdoor.com. And for those of you not in Montana and around the world, a lot of you find us on Spotify or Apple Podcast or Google Podcasts, on and on. I think we're on 25 different sites. So share those, and that way we can talk some more. The other thing, you're going to hear Manny give my email address at the end of the podcast. Shoot me an email and give us ideas for things that you want to cover in the future. Those are all things we'd love to have you do. Now, today we're going to take a little walk down memory lane at first and then look into the future. If you've ever listened to the Montana Outdoor Radio Show, you've heard the name Bretz mentioned many, many times. They've been a great sponsor of ours for a long time. They have been part of the outdoors in Montana and, well, really now kind of all around the United States as well for a long time. And they've grown by leaps and bounds. But what I love about this company is they're a family company, a Montana family company. And so I thought it'd be kind of an interesting thing to just get a little history about this great company and kind of give us a little history about how technology and all that has changed in the camping world, in the boating world, and all that. So we did a little snooping around, and we found a guy who's very busy. Brandon Bretz is his name. He's the president of Bretz RV Marine, and obviously a member of the Bretz family. And so we talked him into coming to my secret underground lair here. Brandon, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Now, Brandon, you've been with Bretz since you were a kid.
I was. I started in grade school on the business end of a snow shovel, and when the snow melted, worked my way up to a wash brush.
Like most family businesses, yeah, you start there. I grew up on a cattle ranch that my dad owned, and it was kind of an indentured servitude. It's in some cases, but there's nothing like a family business, though. It really is. It's more than a job. It is truly your life.
It definitely is. It definitely is. No, we're fortunate. You know, a lot of family businesses have a lot of heartache and strife, but we all get along really well and work really well together.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I was going to ask you is, you know, some families, they just shouldn't be in business together.
That's probably true.
But you guys seem to all get along really well. How did it all fit in that, well, I guess let's go through who's all involved in that. So you're the president. Talk about who the main principals of the company are.
So I'm the president of the company. I'm responsible for the day-to-day operations, and my brother is the operations director. He's based out of Billings, so he's responsible for our parts and service operations in all of our facilities.
And that's Dustin.
That's Dustin.
Okay. Yeah, we've had him on the radio show many times.
You guys get to hear from him a lot.
Yeah.
So my dad, Dave Bretz, and my uncle, Mark Bretz. My dad was the chief operating officer. He still is. My uncle is the chief executive officer. And our job really today is to make sure they get to work as much or as little as they want.
Yeah. Well, they've been doing it a long, long time.
They have.
Yeah. Mark, so in age-wise, how does that go? Is he the oldest then, or?
Mark is the oldest.
Okay.
He got a couple of years on my dad.
And then your dad is his brother, a few years younger. And then you and Dustin are your dad's kids. And then, so now does Mark have?
He does. Yeah, I've got a handful of cousins. None of them ended up in the family business.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, let's talk a bit about how Bretz got started.
Sure.
Because I always love to hear about these family companies and how they got started. So who started Bretz RV and Marine?
So my grandparents started in the early 60s, and it's kind of interesting. My great-grandparents ran a gas station here in Missoula, which is at the location of today's Jiffy Lube by the fairgrounds.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that's where it all started. My great-grandparents ran that gas station. In 1962, my grandparents took it over, and in 1967, they were selling gas, renting U-Hauls and turning wrenches. A fellow came into the station and asked my grandma if we rented campers. She said, no, just the U-Hauls. And he said, well, you're going to.
Really?
Yeah. So at that time, they had a 15-foot Aloha camper that they used to take the boys out camping. And I'd been talking about finding something a little bigger.
Uh-huh.
And this fellow that showed up happened to be a salesman from a dealership over in Helena. And he kind of convinced him, maybe you should get a bigger camper for yourself and 4 to put into the rental fleet.
Okay. So they started out renting campers.
They did. Yeah.
Now, see, I always thought that was a fairly new thing. Was that a pretty popular business back then of renting campers?
Gosh, I don't really know.
Yeah.
They did it that first year, and then the next year they sold the first batch, and then they got into doing a little bit of both, some sales and rentals.
Okay. Yeah, so as they would rent them out, then it's time to replace those, so they'd sell those. Okay. Now, what was the gas station called? Was it Bretz, or what was the gas station called?
At that point, it was called Bretz Super Service.
Okay.
And they were operating in a leased Conoco station.
Oh. And so your grandpa was he a mechanic then?
He was.
Okay. So he was a mechanic, and your grandma kind of
she ran the business end of things.
Ran the business end. Okay. So as that grew, then when did they decide we're going full bore into this camper business?
It was kind of a crazy story. In 1969, they had gone out and they started buying Prowler trailers out of Oregon. That was a brand that we carried for almost 30 years. And if I remember the story right, they were also widening the highway, which was Brook Street at that point.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was the Highway 93.
Yeah.
Okay.
So legend tells that Conoco got a hold of my grandpa and said, you need to make a decision. You need to get in the oil business or get in the trailer business.
Oh.
And they went for trailers.
So the big boys kind of put the strong arm and said, either you're in or you're out.
Huh? They did. At that point, they moved from Malfunction Junction a few blocks away over to Kensington, where they built a new service station. It was the Bretz Thunderbird, and it was Missoula's first self-service gas station. They had a 40-foot service bay that could fit a truck and a trailer.
Oh.
I think they had almost a whole acre and a half of display space, too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So they were still in the service side, but they started to expand the whole truck and the travel trailer and that sort of stuff.
Yep.
So at that point, how many brands were they carrying? Just the Prowler, or?
Gosh, I think at that point they had 2 or 3 different trailer brands.
Mm-hmm. And then from there, where did they go? They just kept growing then at that point?
Yeah, so they stayed in that location through the 70s. In the early 80s, gas was crazy expensive. Interest rates were super high.
Yeah.
Business was super tough. My Uncle Mark had just finished college here at the university, had a business degree, and was planning on getting into banking.
Uh-huh.
The banks weren't hiring at that point. And
That was a pretty tough time then.
Yeah. So the family business was struggling. So he jumped in to try and help figure things out. They brought in a consultant who basically told my uncle, just because your name's on the side of the building doesn't mean you know anything about running a business. And that fancy business degree doesn't mean squat.
Oh.
So
how did he take to that?
I guess he probably took to that like any young adult would after working hard to get a fancy business degree.
Yeah.
So he plucked my uncle out of the family gas station / RV dealership and sent him down to Mesa, Arizona to work with another one of his clients, where he really learned how to run a full-scale RV dealership.
Mm-hmm.
And really learned about how to manage the financials, how to manage the business, and really have it be more of a structured business than sort of a hobby that.
Mm-hmm. So were they still in the service station side of it?
I believe at that point they still were.
Okay. And so this was that big change moment where, and a lot of times this happens to businesses. When you struggle, that can also be an opportunity time. And that's when he, that was kind of was that the motivation then to say, okay, we're going full bore into this?
Yeah, no, I really think it was.
Okay. And so he went down there and learned all that, came back to Missoula and from that point forward, the dealership has grown pretty steadily. We've had, obviously we've had good years and bad years, but consistently grown. Mm. And they, at that point, that would have been the early 80s. I think 1986, they'd finally outgrown that facility. Mm-hmm. And were able to put a deal together on a huge piece of land on Mullen Road here in Missoula. Mm-hmm. I remember it had about 5 acres and 5 service bays. And yeah, it's a big operation there.
That was the Mullen Road store, where I started my RV career, actually. And we were there until my freshman year of high school when we moved out to North Reserve, where we're at today. Mm-hmm. It's funny, I had my driver's license for all of a week, and I got to drive all of our motorhomes across town.
Well, that must have been a great way to break you in as a new driver. So, when your grandma and grandpa were kind of in this transition stage, and Mark was, studying and figuring out, okay, here's what we're going to do. Do you know about how many other RV dealers were around Missoula area or Western Montana at that time?
There were a handful. Rankage Brothers has been here forever.
Yeah.
Gold Boats was here. I don't think they were selling RVs at that point.
Mm-hmm. So, but what was the industry like as far as what you have heard in that? Obviously, you were quite young then, but was the camping a big deal, or was it more boats, or what did the industry look like back then?
No, at that point there were a ton of independent manufacturers, both of RVs and boats. Mm-hmm. There were lots of small dealers, handful of car dealers getting into the business. A lot of RV dealers started in the gas business, like my grandpa did.
Oh, okay. So were a lot of them doing the renting of?
I think a fair amount were.
Okay.
And to clarify, I wasn't born yet.
Yeah, you weren't around yet. So this is more just history of what you've learned.
Yeah.
So there were campgrounds, of course, back then still, and that. And I remember the movie. Gosh, was it Lucille Ball and who was it? And it was about the trailer, and they had this huge travel trailer, and it was a hilarious movie. But you see some of these old pictures of these big, travel trailers and that, and I guess maybe it was after World War II, as the 50s went on, and that we kind of had the population explosion in America. We started to discover more of America and what was going on.
Sure.
It was a time of peace and a lot of prosperity in that. When did you see this technology? Because now, if you go to Bretz, you go into some of these fifth wheels, travel trailers, and we'll get into motorhomes in a bit, but it's amazing. I mean, these things it's like going into your house. And the technology, I remember the first travel, in fact, I got my first pop-up tent trailer at Bretz. And, I mean, even that was, to set it up when you got to the campground, there was a lot of cranking and this and that. And now it's a few buttons you push and you're ready to camp. When did this technology, did it explode at some point, or was it always just kind of a slow progression?
Sure. So I think that for a lot of years, RVs were pretty basic, and the most difficult thing was trying to teach somebody who couldn't set the clock on their VCR at home how to work their TV and VCR in their camper.
Right.
I think that kind of has slowly changed over the last, 15 years, and it's probably sped up the last 4 or 5 years. Mm-hmm. Today, every component in an RV is controlled with a computer circuit board and digital control pad, and there's a lot of fancy electronics in today's RVs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one of the changes, and I want to spend a little time on this, that happened was, and I want to we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, one of the big changes that happened, and as we said, sometimes when we face adversity, it becomes an opportunity, was the whole COVID outbreak, and that really did a lot of changes, of course, to America. I mean, we're still coming out of it, but in the RV industry and in the camping industry, it really was a very unique time, and I want you to tell us a bit about that when we come back right after this. I know our regular listeners to this podcast have heard me talk about Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer, but for those of you that are new here, let me start with the basics about Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. They are your locally owned Boss Snowplow, CM Truck Bed, and Diamond Sea Trailer dealer. They offer a wide variety of auto, truck, and trailer accessories and specialize in sales and service of trailers. Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer is conveniently located at 5680 Expressway in Missoula, Montana. Now, let's get into the stuff that truly makes them special and why they are the ones we recommend if you ever need a new trailer, a snowplow, or just need service and or advice. Let me give you an example. They carry the best snowplows on the planet. That's Boss Snowplows. So that way, when you get sick of just getting by with what you have or sick of spending a fortune to have someone else plow you out, you can come tell the folks at Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer about what and where you need to remove snow, and they will help you find the perfect Boss snowplow to get the job done right now and likely for the rest of your life. I'm going to tell you something about these Boss snowplows that just amazes me, but I truly hear about it all the time once someone I know buys one. They always say something to the effect of, "You know, Rigger, I never thought I'd say this, and I know it sounds crazy, but I actually have fun plowing snow with my Boss snowplow. And crazier yet, I like it so much I actually look for places near me that need plowing and ask property owners if I can plow it for them." Gang, I'm not exaggerating. That is the Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer difference. They carry the equipment that not only is perfect for you, it actually becomes part of you. So, gang, don't end up hoping you get the right snowplow, trailer, or truck bed. Just go to rmtte.com. Look at what they have, then call them at 406-549-4243. Get all your questions answered, and then go have fun this winter. Thanks to Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. Go see them, rmtte.com. That's Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. We're back here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast. Brandon Bretz is my guest. He is president of Bretz RV and Marine. and we're kind of going through the history of Bretz. We left off as their Missoula store had grown. They had moved out by the highway. In fact, a lot of you now, as you're going by Missoula, you see that great big dealership. And, of course, they have dealerships now in many other areas, and we're going to get into that. But I wanted to talk a bit about we left off just talking about some of the changes in the RV industry. And COVID was kind of a weird time in the outdoor and camping business because if you remember when we were talking we hadn't started doing this podcast yet, but on the Montana Outdoor Radio Show, we've been doing that for 24 years, all of a sudden the campgrounds started filling up. I mean, in Montana, you could not find a camping space, and it was a very weird time. What was that like with Bretz? By then, you guys had how many dealerships now?
We were running 7 dealerships at that point.
And where were those located?
We had a couple in western Montana, based out of Missoula. We were in Billings. Mm-hmm. We were in Boise. Mm-hmm. We had a small boat dealership in Boise. We had a store in Nampa. Mm-hmm. And we were partners with another dealer group that had a store in Spokane and Pasco.
Oh, okay. Okay, so COVID hits, and for some, like the restaurant and bar business, just devastating. For you guys, did you have to close, or were you in that necessary, or what was the label they put on businesses?
I think they called it an essential business.
Essential business. So were you guys in that category then?
Gosh, we looked real closely at the beginning, and in Montana and Idaho, we could justify being an essential business on the RV side. We did consolidate our boat operations in Boise. Mm-hmm. The boat standalone dealership could not operate as an essential business, so we moved the boats and the people over to our RV lot. Mm-hmm. We were able to pretty much stay open through that time.
So you guys were able to stay open. When did you start to notice that this whole camping thing was booming?
Sure. So early in March of 2020, as COVID kind of took over the news and it was all anyone could talk about, we were kind of reviewing January and February's business. We'd done a big show in Kalispell, we'd done a big show in Boise, and we'd done a big show in Billings.
Just before COVID hit?
Just before. Okay. COVID was kind of in the news as this thing happening in China, but it wasn't really getting a lot of attention. We were on track to have what we thought would be our best year. Mm-hmm. About the time we started hearing about travel bans mm-hmm. and shutting businesses down and really having some significant life changes, mm-hmm. our traffic dropped over 92%. We measure that each week.
92%.
It was terrifying.
Wow.
And that went from mid to late March, all the way through April into May. We had these wild planning meetings trying to figure out, everything from keeping people healthy to protecting inventory and facilities to, just crazy things that we never thought we'd have to do. We were in the business of helping people go camping and boating, not
right. Yeah, you're not medical professionals
right.
and everything else.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was crazy.
Go ahead.
Early May, which May is typically our busiest month of the year. Mm-hmm. It was a ghost town. And I don't know what happened, but one day in the middle of May, we came in, the phones wouldn't quit ringing. People were flooding into the buildings. Mm-hmm. Everyone wanted to be camping or boating by Memorial Day. Mm-hmm. So virtually all of the business we'd lost in that window, we made up for in 2 weeks.
Wow.
We had so many phone calls coming in that we literally smoked our phone system.
Really?
Yeah, it literally smoked.
Wow. So we were hearing the same thing from Fish, Wildlife, and Parks in the state park system, and also in the national park system, where they were saying, this is crazy. All of a sudden, everybody wants to get in. And I think it was a combination of people just could not take being cooped up indoors anymore, but also for Montana, it seemed like a lot of people are saying, I'm getting the heck out of the big city, and we're going to see this through camping out.
Certainly.
It was almost like, some of those movies you see where the big bomb dropped and, people changed their whole lifestyle. So was that then what caused everyone to say, okay, what do you got here? I'm going to camping.
That was certainly part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think another significant part was just local families that typically would go to Disney World or go on a cruise or jump on an airplane. They wanted to do things with their family.
Yeah.
They didn't want to be in airplanes. They didn't want to be staying in hotel rooms.
Well, in some cases, you couldn't even do
exactly.
it. Mm-hmm.
And even as that loosened up, people were slow to transition back to that a little bit.
Right.
And the products we offer really offer a unique way to enjoy family together.
Sure. Yeah. So here, all of a sudden, you're finding customers that have never even been camping before.
Definitely.
What was that like? Where all of a sudden people are coming in going, I want one of these trailer things you pull behind the car or that you drive.
Gosh, it certainly presented some challenges we hadn't dealt with before. We went from very quickly being worried about having too much inventory to having too little.
Mm-hmm.
And we were scouring the country for inventory. We were for change, we were driving the factories nuts trying to get trailers instead of them trying to sell us trailers.
Yeah.
And a lot of newbie RVers really had a tough time figuring out what they wanted.
Yeah.
So they were buying whatever was available. And the one thing that's kind of neat about our industry is typically when somebody gets into it, they stay in it. We do a fair job at hooking people into the lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
So over the last several years, we've helped a lot of people trade out of rigs that they bought because they were available into things that are a better fit for their lifestyle and the way they want to camp.
Mm-hmm. And what I noticed about Bretz is, this really is, as I'm talking to you here, it's kind of developed into this survival story. I mean, every time Bretz hits this challenge, you guys answer back with, now we're going to figure this out. And for the whole COVID and the rush to the outdoors and the rush camping, you guys became this really main information source where people were learning all about what camping was and what it was about. How much training did you guys have to do with all your personnel and that to be able to be not just knowing about RVs, but being teachers almost in a sense? Was it a kind of a natural since most of you do it anyway, or how difficult was that to kind of play two different roles?
Sure. Well, I think that a couple of different things there. We work really hard day in and day out to make sure we're the outdoor experts
Mm-hmm.
and to know the right questions to ask to help people pick the right rigs and make sure it matches their tow vehicle, make sure it fits in their campsite, make sure it does what they want to do. So that part was pretty natural for
Mm-hmm.
us. I think that, one of the things that we worked really hard on was making sure the campground stayed open, was making sure we had a supply of inventory, and then making sure we were getting educated ourselves to make sure we kept our people safe.
Yeah.
Early on, that was a really scary thing. We had no idea what COVID really was.
Mm-hmm. So how did you handle that as far as, like, people want to go inside of a trailer or a motorhome or that and look at it?
Sure.
Did you have to sanitize it each time?
We actually we were able to do a couple of RV shows. We were using the same chemical that they were using in commercial airliners out of a fogging machine. So we would actually go in and we would fog the trailers between families visiting, and it was pretty intense there for many months.
Mm-hmm. And so as people came in and you were able to kind of do those workarounds, then you have, say, a new family that's never camped in their life. They buy this trailer, off they go.
Sure.
Did your phone ring off the hook a lot of, hey, I can't get this to work or that to work?
There was some of that.
Yeah.
There was some of that. One of the things we do when families buy rigs from us is we spend a fair amount of time going through them. We do what we call a show through with them to make sure they understand how the rigs work, how to hook them up, how to tow them safely. And we try to send everybody out with a fairly good understanding of how to at least get camping and get home safely. They'll remember about half of what we show them. So we make sure we really emphasize on the safety, functionality, and safe towing.
Well, I got my first motorhome from Bretz, and it was a Bounder. And this was a pretty big rig. And I grew up on a ranch, so I was used to driving big rigs, but this was a big motorhome.
Sure.
And, just all the systems and the different things on it. And I remember my wife looking at me and she said, there is no way you're going to be able to operate this thing.
But you figured it out, didn't you?
Well, actually, it was, I was amazed. It was pretty seamless. Your guys took me through, bow to stern, everything. And what was neat about it was they kind of kept referring me back to the manuals to say, okay, now here's where you'll find this. If you forget about it, here's where you'll find it. So our first camping trip out, she was looking at me and the kids were all with me and I was able to do everything. It was really amazing. Now, did I have to open the manual a few times? Yes, I did. But it was pretty amazing. So, has that been that way at Bretz from the very beginning? Was that part of what Mark brought to it when he was studying about how do we become more of this full service camping thing? Or
I think that's something that we've done since my grandpa started.
Really?
Okay. It used to be that he'd go through the unit in the shop before we delivered it to the customer. He'd show them how to use it. He'd fix it if something broke, and that's really something that started there.
Well, and I suppose with him being a mechanic in that, he had a pretty unique knowledge of the whole deal then.
He really did.
So this was something that just kind of started, it was just born into the whole Bretz business that when somebody leaves here, they're going to know how to work this thing.
Absolutely.
Wow. Because it worked with me, and I'm, believe it or not, I've been told sometimes I am not the best listener.
Oh, dear.
But by golly, I did it. And then I remember I upgraded from the Bounder to a Discovery motorhome. And that thing was so automatic. That was a breeze. I just could do whatever with that. And, it kind of went from there. So we get through COVID. So now you've got all these new customers. Society starts to open up a little bit. Did you see a drop in the business, or was it that these new campers and all that just stayed campers and camping families?
Sure. I think that, some people decided it wasn't for them. Mm-hmm. I think a whole bunch of people that we never would have had the opportunity to interact with got into the lifestyle and will stick with it. Mm-hmm. We see a lot of that. And a lot of people do, change their mind, and sort of like you talked about, Dale, the RV ownership progression is pretty normal. A lot of people start with a small tent trailer in your case and work their way up.
Pop-up trailer, yeah.
And work their way up through a Bounder to a Discovery. And so that's the great thing is that, the average RVer owns 5 RVs in their lifetime.
Really?
So
okay,
we get the opportunity to help a whole bunch more people enjoy that lifestyle.
So let's get into the nuts and bolts a little bit now of it. Let's start with somebody that may be listening to this podcast and says, the reason I chose this podcast is I want to learn more about spending more time in the outdoors and all that. So when someone walks into a Bretz dealership and says, okay, I want to, and often it's just the generic term, I want a camper. Well, that can be a lot of different things.
Sure.
How do you guys take them through to find out? Because really, in my case, before when I decided to move up from the old pop-up tent trailer to the Bounder, I didn't know what I wanted. I wasn't sure if I wanted a trailer or not. So how do you take them through to figure out what we really do want? Because a lot of people don't know what they want when they walk in, do they?
There's a lot of discovery, trying to figure out what the right rig is. Some people walk in and know. Some people come in and say, "Hey, I want this specific Airstream."
They've done the homework. And
certainly. But sometimes people will come in, like you say, and say, "I just want to go camping. I don't know what I want." So we'll sit down and we'll have a conversation. Where do you want to go? How many people are going to go with you? What pets are you going to bring along? What vehicle do you have that could potentially tow it or be towed behind? And we help kind of figure out a handful of options that might be a good fit for each family.
So you kind of just take them all through the different things, size-wise, all that. Then we get into the whole budget thing.
Sure.
And this is where I think, especially for the new camper, what may be a barrier to entry is they think, well, this has got to cost a pile. Sure. Now, that is what has always amazed me, is you guys can fit pretty much anybody's budget.
We do have something that'll fit pretty much anyone's budget. And, we can get somebody out camping for, I don't know, the monthly price of one night in a hotel.
Yeah. In fact, I was talking with your brother a while back, and he was telling me about, what was it? Like a monthly payment of, it wasn't much over $100.
No, we've got some that, a small camper you can get into for $120 to $150 a month.
Now, on the financing side, how hard is that to finance an RV? Is it simple like a car nowadays? Or?
The process is very similar. The lenders are a little bit tougher than a car purchase, but there are a lot of options. We work with 35 different lenders today to make sure we have a wide variety of options available.
Yeah, I remember when I moved up from the Bounder to the Discovery, which was a pretty big move up in price and all that. It was something that I had no idea that you could finance a motorhome much longer than a car.
Sure.
So I think it was like 15 years or something. How far can you finance, say, a travel trailer, a motorhome, and that? Take us through a little bit about the financing.
It really depends. A standard term on an RV can be anywhere from 4 years to 20 years, depending on the price point and the type. And the thing to keep in mind there is no one keeps the RV that long.
Right.
You pay for the part you use. On average, RVers and boaters trade in about every 42 months.
Really? That often?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm out of the norm then, because I tended to keep mine a while. But
we can help you with that.
So every 42 months. So then how does that work so we go in and we get this loan so that it fits my monthly budget and all that. So if I want to go trade it in and I still how do you guys work all that out then?
So we try to help match the budget with the right rig and try to help people be in an equity position when they're ready to trade in. Now, not everyone does that, but we certainly try to make sure that's an option for our buyers so that they're in that position to be able to trade in. And
so that way they've got some value in it.
Yep.
And now they can move up if they want or whatever.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit now as we get into all this about then all the different choices. And this is a question I get quite a bit. Being in the outdoor radio show and all that, people go, why is it that some people, I'm gonna tow a trailer with my truck. So why is it some are doing fifth wheel and some just do the hook onto the bumper and go?
Sure. Gosh, there's a lot of different options and configurations that work. A lot of it has to do with what you want to take with you,
Mhm.
what you have for a tow vehicle. So the bumper pull trailers, you can pull, if you want to get a little teardrop trailer, you pull that with a small car
Yeah.
and go wherever you'd like. The travel trailers are great if you want to haul stuff in the bed of your truck.
Mm-hmm.
Fifth wheels, you can get a little more trailer and a little more living space in a smaller length combination.
Yeah, and the fifth wheel side, what I noticed when the captain got his first fifth wheel and we were going camping, he's been my fishing buddy forever, and so we're going, is it really, one, it gave us a little more space because we both snore pretty loud.
Sure.
And, but also the ability that you can pull into, have a very good sized unit, but you can pull into about any camper space. It really gives that turning radius, and
it does.
And that. There are some distinct advantages then, when you're wanting for size and all that.
Certainly.
What about going the next step then to motorhome? Like the captain's always said, nope, never going to do the motorhome thing. I just like having all my options.
Sure.
And he's got to the point now where he's got the fifth wheel, puts the boat on the back of the fifth wheel.
Yep.
So he's like a choo-choo train out there. Talk a bit about that. Why would someone decide, no, I want the motorhome instead of the trailer?
Well, there's a lot of different ways to use these things. And, with a motorhome, a lot of folks will pull the car behind. Motorhome's nice because as you're trucking down the highway, if somebody needs to get up and use the bathroom, they can do that. Or
that's what I loved about it, was that. And the other thing that I loved about the motorhome, and why that's the way I'll always go, is, and people are always so surprised when I say this, they're so quiet when you go to the diesel pusher, because the engine's way behind you. That is the quietest ride I've ever had. Way quieter than a car.
Yep. No, they drive like a dream, don't they?
They do. I got to where when I ended up with that Discovery, I ended up taking that all the time for everything. That became, and I had a lot of kids. They're all grown up now, but we would use that to go anywhere,
Sure.
Soccer. And even if we were going to take them and a bunch of friends, well, we'd use that to go to the restaurant, and I like the ability to just have everything all right there. I ended up, as time went on, I ended up having my own set of clothes, everything. So I didn't even pack anything.
Exactly.
I would just walk out of the house into the motorhome. Everything's there. Do you find a lot of people end up doing that?
They do. I certainly have. I have my fifth wheel ready to go right now.
Mm-hmm. So you just go.
Yep.
So as far as choosing that motorhome and making that step, let's talk about price differences. Is that a pretty big change for people, that are listening right now, saying, gee, I don't know if I could ever make the leap to motorhome. It's just probably too expensive for me. Talk a bit about how that works.
Gosh, there's a lot of options, and a lot of pre-owned options too that kind of take the sticker shock away.
Mm-hmm.
We can usually find a rig that works, and the price usually isn't the only issue. It's what kind of rig do you need for the way you want to use it.
Mm-hmm.
We can often find something that fits the budget.
And do you recommend the used route is a good way to start with somebody?
It can be.
That's getting into.
It sure can be.
Because what I find is the options for used can be really good if you're trying to figure out where you're at, because there really isn't a lot of miles on them.
Yeah, no, they typically are low miles.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes used is the right fit.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes new is. There's a lot of variables that go into that.
For me, the Discovery brand new was a life changer.
What year did you buy that?
Gee, I'm trying to think when that was.
Was it the Reserve Street store?
Yes, yeah, it was the Reserve Street store. Yeah, and that was a big step up, brand new. But wow, that I don't know if I could ever do used now, but I got pretty spoiled. But that really was an eye opener for me, and the systems and how the whole thing worked is just been, they're amazing vehicles. So as we progress in this Bretz story, I know I'm jumping around a lot, but to me it's kind of fun just to talk as it comes. But so when you guys started getting into this, when did the boats come into the picture? Was that always part of like when your grandma and grandpa had it? Or when did the boats get involved?
The boats have been around as long as I've been involved in the business. I think it became a key product for us in the late 80s, early 90s, before I was even pushing a broom.
In the boat side of it for Bretz is, I could spend all day in there because you guys really cover the gamut as far as boats, from the hardcore fisherman on up to the family boat. Take us through the brands and what you guys carry
Sure.
there.
No, we, throughout our several locations, we have a ton of boat brands. We have a great partner in Smokercraft. Smokercraft is a family-owned boat manufacturer out of Indiana. They do a lot of fishing boats, pontoon boats. They even do some fiberglass. We have, we have Bayliner, we have Chaparral, we have Tracker boats in Idaho. We have Barletta pontoon boats, which have become a big part of our business. That pontoon boats overall have almost caught up with small aluminum fishing boats.
That is probably going to be my next purchase, and I know some of you hardcore fishermen out there, you go, "Oh, come on, Downrigger, how could you go to the pontoon boat?" Well, I'm telling you, the more I look at those, I mean, they're not your grandpa's pontoon boat anymore.
We say that all the time.
These things are amazing, and really, for the kind of fishing and the amount of time that you spend on the water, which when we fish, man, we fish.
Yeah.
The comfort of this pontoon boat, I mean, they really have changed, haven't they?
They've changed a lot.
I mean, they can handle, I think one of the big barriers to getting a pontoon boat, especially, for people that are looking at the larger lakes like Flathead or Fort Peck or that, you say, well, they can't handle the rougher water.
They absolutely can.
Yeah, I was going to say, nowadays, that's not true, is it?
They absolutely can handle rough water, handle Flathead. I've not spent a lot of time on Fort Peck, but I've spent a lot of time on really rough days on Flathead.
And and the other side of it is they can get up and move now.
They can. We have pontoon boats that'll push 50 miles an hour.
Really? Oh, I didn't know that fast. 50 miles an hour.
Yeah, they'll get after it.
And now what about for fishing? Because see, that's where I guess I always assumed that the pontoon boat is just for a family thing. Really, yeah, you could fish off them, but who does? I'm seeing more and more people out there fishing because what's kind of moving me towards pontoon boats is, one, I'm getting more and more grandkids now, and so to me that's kind of a cool way to
definitely,
it's that big open concept. They can just kind of run around, but I am seeing more and more fishermen that are actually buying it for the comfort of fishing.
Definitely.
There are pontoon boats actually designed for fishing, right?
Yeah, there are. There's a lot of different configurations you can get. Some combination of lounging and fishing, some really dedicated to fishing with fishing seats and live wells and electronics that you'd find in a traditional fishing boat.
Well, that's what I'm looking at, is the fact that these things now, I was looking at on your website, and there was one set up where, I mean, these are like big high-back lounge chairs, but they're all set up for fishing off the back on the side. I mean, just so set up for everything all right there.
Yep.
And then you've got that stability. I'm getting a little longer in the tooth. My balance is not as good as it used to be. In fact, the captain nowadays, when we get out in the water, he goes, "Just sit down, Downrigger. You're making me a nervous wreck," because I'm stumbling around, where these have a much more of a stable platform.
Definitely.
So, are you seeing more fishermen starting to look at these pontoon boats?
Yeah, we are.
Mm-hmm.
My brother-in-law actually set his up. We came up with a couple mounts for downriggers right on the wakeboard tower, and we've got his set up pretty well.
Yeah. So, I mean, really, when we tell the whole Bretz story, it really goes to there is something for everybody, and when we come back, I'm going to take a quick break here. But when we come back, I want to talk a bit about how that philosophy now has grown and where Bretz is looking in the future. So we'll do that when we come right back. I want to talk a bit about a very special company located in western Montana, Superior Hardwoods of Montana. They were established in 1977, and since that time, guiding customers through the woods has been their passion throughout their history. The main focus at Superior Hardwoods of Montana has been to provide the finest wide plank flooring and unique building materials available anywhere. One of the things I noticed right away about the owner of Superior Hardwoods of Montana, John Medliger, and his son Corey, and the rest of the staff there is they're very proud to offer the largest selection of in-stock flooring in the western United States. See, for over 40 years, they've been known for leading the industry in reclaimed and antique building materials, and the success that followed has allowed them to, now get this, stock over 11 acres of stunning architectural lumber that awaits the perfect addition to your home. One thing I want you to remember is just because they're located in Missoula, Montana, that does not mean they can't help you turn your home into a piece of historical art if you live somewhere else. They have been guiding folks from as far away as Hawaii and beyond through the woods for many years. So no matter if your project is located across the street from them, across the state, or somewhere else in the world, they can't wait to turn your house into a dream home. Their goal is simple. They stand ready to deliver the best choices with reliability and honesty, helping at any phase of a project with inspirational advice. And I'm not exaggerating when I say they actually treat their customers as friends and family. So the choice is yours. But if I were you, I would go to superior-hardwoods.com. superior-hardwoods.com. Of course, you're more than welcome to call them, 406-235-7452, or, they'd love you to visit 5120 Highway 93, just south of Missoula, Montana. They can't wait to guide you through the woods at Superior Hardwoods of Montana. Go see them. You're going to love what they do to your home. Back here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast, wrapping it up with Brandon Bretz. And Brandon, I want to thank you so much for all the time you've spent with me here and just learning about this family business, Bretz RV and Marine, and what they stand for, what they are. Nowadays, you go into a Bretz, you've got locations, Idaho, Montana, Spokane. You're putting in a new one there.
We're working on building right now in Liberty Lake, just this side of Spokane, and we just opened the doors. We've got a 12,000 square foot pole barn we're working on as we finish our 80,000 square foot
80,000
showroom and service facility.
Woo! Wow, will that be your biggest facility so far?
It'll be a tiny bit smaller than our Missoula store.
Okay. So is the Missoula store still your largest?
It is,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, all of them are huge. What I love about them is, like you guys did recently, the indoor boat show and RV show that you guys do, and you can go in there and, really now's the time.
Certainly.
To really make your decisions so you're not scrambling, when the season starts. And it's nice because you can stay indoors and see everything that you want to see. So you guys have really set this company up. For me, it looks like for the long haul, that you guys are here to stay for a very, generations.
That's our goal.
To come and families to come. Take us, give us a little peek into the future. Where do you see Bretz going in the next 5-10 years?
Sure. So we we are committed to growing sustainably. There's a handful of companies right now trying to be the biggest dealer groups in the country. That's not us. We really want to focus on growing in a way we can sustain, in a way we can manage, keep the family business in the family. We are looking at opportunities to expand beyond Washington, beyond Idaho and Montana as those things come up. We are fortunate to have a really, really good team and a deep bench of people that want to grow in the organization as well.
It seems like an organization that is really great to work for because you see the same faces year in, year out. You don't see a lot of that turnover, which is important for business people, but it's really important for customers. You know, that you come in and you know the person, they know you and all that. As you expand, if someone wants to become part of your team, how do they go about looking into that? Because I would think that'd be a pretty cool place to work.
No, we have a lot of fun. The website has a listing of all of our job openings at BrettsRV.com. We actually were shocked when we announced we were coming to Spokane. We were overrun with applications, which is pretty exciting. We get to be pretty picky and who we get to have on our team over there.
And that's unusual because, you know, right now it's hard to find people. So do you feel it's your longevity and your history that's attracting people to your organization?
I think that's part of it. You know, we're in a fun business too.
Yeah.
You know,
that's
I think,
true. Yeah.
I think most days, most of our people have fun at work.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, even customers, of course, they may have a problem here or there, but really, you're coming in contact with people that are pretty happy.
Yeah, absolutely. We're doing fun things.
Yeah, you're doing fun things and getting out there. As far as you're expanding and all that, is it going to stay just pretty hardcore into the RVs and boats then? Are you looking at expanding into other things? Or?
Oh, I think that RVs and boats are our primary focus.
Yeah. Well, I know that I've seen some dealers around the country that then start getting into campgrounds and that sort of thing, or these customer club things and that. What are the advantages of someone staying with Bretz?
Sure.
In other words, as a customer, you just keep staying with them. You guys have some kind of neat things to really take care of the customer.
No, we really try hard. I think that, you know, first and foremost is our people, like you mentioned. Having somebody that knows you and can help you along the way is huge. We've made a tremendous commitment to servicing what we sell. We have 26 service bays here in Missoula. We're building 20 in Spokane. I think we have 24 now in Billings. We have a bunch of service bays in Idaho. We have a real strong commitment to servicing our customers and taking care of them through the long haul. Of course, we have things like our free dump stations in most of our locations, our 99-cent propane, which starts March 1st, and
99.
things like
yeah,
that.
That's right. 99-cent propane. So that's for your Bretz customers to come in. Wow. Yeah, that's a good deal. So as far as going forward, we're going to probably see Bretz continue to grow around and continue to take care of us. The service after the sale, I gotta say, and I'm not shining you guys on that. I think is one area you guys are incredible at. There is nothing worse than when the thing that brings you all this joy is not working, and you don't want to miss out. You guys get people in and out and do a heck of a job.
We sure work hard at it.
Yeah, that has got to be probably the hardest part of your business, I would say.
I think it is.
Yeah, that's and the other thing I love about what you guys do is the accessories. And that is something that I think a lot of people don't think of at a dealership. They go, oh, no, don't buy your accessories there. That's going to be way too expensive.
Sure.
Go to Walmart or whatever. But you guys actually are priced very competitively. And what I love about it is you got the newest, latest gizmos.
We do.
Stuff.
Yeah, no, we try to be really competitive on our pricing. more than that, we have the people who understand what the right accessories are for the way you want to use it.
Exactly. And what for example, the captain and I, one of the things we found was the remote start generators that you have.
Yeah.
For the fifth wheel. Wow.
Those have been great.
Those things are amazing. For a couple fat, lazy guys.
Don't have to get out of bed to turn the air conditioner on.
You just go, it's getting hot. You press the little remote, boom, it comes on, and it's sitting there in the back of the pickup, and it fires right up.
Yep.
And we're still watching the game.
Yep.
And here come the AC on. What are there any other... I guess just to wrap it up here, going into kind of the future of RVs and boats, is there any piece of technology that maybe you guys are kind of excited about that you see coming down the road?
I think that one of the things that is getting really popular, and we've done a lot of the last couple of years, is getting to the point where you don't need that generator. We're doing a lot of solar, a lot of lithium batteries.
Mm-hmm.
I've got mine set up so that I can push 2 buttons and the Keurig works without being plugged into anything.
Wow.
So
okay.
We're doing a lot of solar and lithium battery power.
Really, the RV and boating industry, I think from the electric side, from the solar and that, has always been kind of on the forefront of it. I mean, you look at the fishing side, they've been operating electric motors for years.
Definitely.
Do you see... I've heard of like some new electric outboards coming out and things and a talk of electric operated motorhomes.
Sure.
Do you see the e-business becoming part of your deal or no?
I think that's still pretty early in the RV and boat space. It'll be interesting to see how that evolves. Winnebago did a prototype of a Class A motorhome that was all electric, and it had a range of about 80 miles.
That's not going to work.
I think we're a little ways away from that being mainstream.
Well, that's a pretty heavy piece of equipment to be hauling down there. But it's going to be interesting, and I guess that's the thing. You can depend on Bretz. If it's reliable, you guys are going to handle it.
Definitely.
If it's not, let somebody else.
Yeah, we'll watch from the sidelines on some of that.
And you guys are good at anything else you want to cover before we head out here, Brandon?
I don't think so.
You've been very generous with your time, and I'll tell you, this is just neat to learn about a true Montana family company and how you guys have grown with all of us, and will continue to grow with all of us. To serve what we're doing in the outdoors. And for those of you listening to this podcast that have been on the sidelines and saying, I'm thinking about doing it, I'm thinking about maybe, once you decide that the outdoors is going to be part of your vacation plans, part of your getting out with your family plans, you will never regret it. And a good place to start is Bretz. Thanks, Brandon, for stopping by and being on the Montana Outdoor Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So let's close it out with the guy who started it all, Frank Bretz. Unfortunately, we lost Frank at the age of 97 last year. But he recorded a message that I think says it all. I'll leave a link in the podcast description to the entire message for you to be able to watch and listen to, but here's part of it. And I think it really says it all about what the spirit of Bretz is, and especially what he taught Brandon, his dad Dave, his brother Dustin, and his uncle Mark. Before Frank left this world, he was able to see my guest, Brandon Bretz, his grandson, be named the president of Bretz RV. So at the end of this message, he left a little message for Brandon, too. Here's Frank Bretz.
Then my boys took over the business. Mark took it over first, and then he and his brother decided to go together, and it really went very smoothly, I think. My wife and I had been spending winters in Arizona, and so Mark had been running the business for a long time then, and was obviously was going to do a better job of it than I ever had. So, yes, sure, I enjoyed making the sale, but I enjoyed seeing families buy something that they could enjoy as a family together. There are very few people that really have to have an RV or a boat. They buy it for enjoyment. And I'm all for seeing families continue to go and grow as a family and doing things together. If my grandkids hadn't been interested, what would have happened to the whole picture? I'm glad to see them taking an active part in the business, because had they not come into it, well, after all, Mark and Dave are getting some years behind them, and my grandkids are handling it like a business should be handled and are growing with it as much as it's growing with them. Thank you.
What are you most proud of?
What am I most proud of? My boys. For you, Brandon, congratulations. And just move on and forward and upward. God bless you and keep things rolling.
Thanks for listening to the Montana Outdoor Podcast. It has been brought to you in part by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. And by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss Snowplows, CM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Just go to rmtte.com for more information. So what did you think of today's podcast? Send your questions and comments to Downrigger at montanooutdoor.com. We should be dropping a new podcast this next Saturday. Until then, we will see you soon out in Montana's great outdoors.